Ah, look who came back from the shadows, not broken, not bitter, but burning. Ah, look who walked through silence and turned it into strategy. Look who stood in a room full of noise and let their stillness scream the loudest. Look who wore invisibility like armor, letting every dismissive glance, every whispered doubt, every cold shoulder sharpen their vision. You didn't raise your voice. No, you raised your mind. And they didn't see it coming. They see it now. Oh yes, but it's too late. Too late because you already moved. Too late because you already became the weapon they didn't think to watch. And now they're checkmated. They thought you were slow. They thought you didn't get it. They looked in your eyes and saw calm, maybe confusion, maybe disinterest. But what they didn't see was the inferno beneath, the calculations, the patience, the awareness. They didn't know you were listening deeper than anyone else in the room. They didn't know you were tracking every move, every angle, every shift in tone, every power play disguised as small talk. You didn't just play along. You played beyond. You were never the pawn. You were studying the board, memorizing it, redesigning it, and now, when they blinked, the whole game flipped. And isn't it funny? They thought they were clever. They laughed. Some even pitied you. Because you didn't chase their spotlight. Because you didn't perform your intelligence for their applause. Because you didn't bend to compete for crumbs at their table. But what they missed was the truth. You are the table. You are the storm behind the smile, the blueprint behind the silence, the genius behind the blank face. And they finally realized it. But realization is not redemption. Realization is not reversal. The clock has run out. You didn't need to explain yourself. You didn't argue. You didn't correct their small-minded expectations. You let them think what they wanted, because while they were speaking, you were building. While they were mocking, you were mastering. While they were busy being loud, you were becoming undeniable. And now, in their stunned silence, in their backpedaling and nervous admiration, you see it clearly. They know. They know they underestimated you. They know they mistook your stillness for stupidity, your quiet for weakness, your questions for ignorance. And now? Now they wish they had paid attention. Now they wish they hadn't spoken so soon. Now they wish they had seen you for what you truly were. But this isn't about proving them wrong. No, this is bigger. This is about proving yourself right. Because somewhere deep down, you always knew. You knew you weren't made to fit their molds. You knew you had something burning in you that didn't need validation to grow. You knew that just because the world rewards noise doesn't mean it respects depth. And you chose depth. You chose to wait. You chose to grow in the dark, to become in the quiet. You chose the long game, and that's why you won. People forget, pressure doesn't create character, it reveals it. And when life squeezed you, when the room ignored you, when they thought you were nothing more than background noise, you didn't break. You didn't beg. You didn't shrink. You transformed. Quietly, relentlessly, brilliantly. Every setback refined you. Every insult redirected you. Every dismissal made your strategy sharper. And when the moment came, when the board reset and the stakes were real, you didn't hesitate. You moved, and it was flawless. They say the best revenge is success, but this isn't even revenge. This is realization. This is the echo of all the times you stayed silent instead of screaming. This is the glow of a fire they never saw flickering behind your calm eyes. This is the victory of someone who never needed to be seen to be powerful. And now, in this moment, as the dust settles and they look at you with widened eyes, you don't even have to say a word. Your actions said everything. Your results screamed every truth they refused to see. And now they realize why you played dumb. Let them sit with it. You see, the world is quick to judge surface. People are drawn to flash, to volume, to performance. But they forget that the deadliest minds are often the quietest, that the most dangerous warriors are the ones who don't show their weapons. that the most genius players don't show their moves until it's too late. And you became all of that. Not because you wanted to fool them, but because you had something more powerful than image. You had intention. You didn't want to be the loudest. You wanted to be the last one standing. You didn't seek to shine in every room. You sought to own it when the time was right. You didn't just want their attention. You wanted their respect. And the truth is, if you had shown them everything from the beginning, they would have only copied, diluted, or discredited you. So instead, you let them overlook you. You let them sleep on you. You let them write their stories. And then you rewrote the ending. They played checkers. You studied chess. They tried to win the moment. You planned the empire. And now, the empire is here. Your moves were slow, but seismic. Your growth was quiet, but nuclear. You weren't the echo. You were the origin. And that is why they lost. Not because you tricked them, but because they assumed you needed to. And so, you stand now, not just in victory, but in clarity. You don't need to explain your past. You don't need to rewrite your history to make sense to their limited view. You are proof that silence can be strength, that humility can be strategy, that underestimation is not defeat, it is opportunity. They wrote you off, and now they're rewriting their memories trying to pretend they always saw it. But you know the truth, and you don't need their applause. Because you didn't come for their approval, you came for the crown, and you claimed it. Now they sit there, stunned, trying to remember what you said in that meeting, trying to recall the way you watched, how you listened, how you never reacted. They're piecing it together now. The signs, the signals, the genius hiding behind the blank face. It's clear now. It's undeniable now. It's too late now. Checkmate. And now the silence is heavier than any words they ever spoke. It weighs down on their shoulders, because truth, when it arrives, doesn't knock. It crashes through like lightning. And they sit there, wide-eyed, trying to understand how they missed it, how they misjudged the one person who was never trying to be seen, but always destined to be remembered. Because this was never about popularity. This was about precision. This was never about being liked. This was about being necessary, irreplaceable, unshakable. You didn't come to impress them. You came to change the terms of the game. You didn't smile to win them over. You smiled because you knew what they didn't. You knew how many steps ahead you already were. You knew they couldn't see the storm forming behind your stillness. And now, that storm has arrived, and it carries your name. They thought you were playing catch-up, but what you were really doing was letting them run ahead, loud and distracted, while you mapped the whole terrain. They were sprinting. You were building. And when the dust settled, when the path twisted, when the weight of the journey demanded more than showmanship, that's when you emerged, not exhausted, not scrambling, but steady, prepared, transformed. Because you didn't wait for a seat at their table. You built your own kingdom. You didn't knock on doors hoping to be invited in. You tore the ground and planted foundations. And now, they're watching the empire rise, brick by brick, layer by layer. And the part that rattles them the most is this. You did it without asking, without explaining, without needing them to understand. You let them think they were ahead. You let them win the small battles. Because you weren't here to win their moments. You were here to win the war of becoming. And now, they look up at the throne and realize they never saw the crown. Because it wasn't made of gold or applause or likes or promotions. Your crown was made of restraint, of vision, of unseen battles fought alone in rooms no one applauded, of late nights, rejections, quiet mornings, and relentless belief. They were noisy. You were focused. They were visible. You were inevitable. You didn't need the crowd. You needed time. And you used every second like a master sculptor, carving your mind into precision, sharpening your thoughts like blades, grinding your fears into fuel. And now, you're not just ready. You're unreachable. not because they can't find you, but because they can't comprehend how far ahead you truly are. They called you too quiet, too passive, too unsure. And now those same voices are trying to mimic your silence, trying to decipher your formula, trying to borrow your patience as if it were something you can imitate. But what they don't know is, your stillness was not emptiness, it was discipline. Your blank face wasn't confusion, it was calculation. You were never behind, you were watching everything, and now the same ones who underestimated you are looking for answers in your wake. But you've moved on, you've elevated, you're no longer explaining, you're executing. And execution doesn't make noise, it makes impact. Let them replay the moments in their minds, the meetings, the conversations, the chances they had to see you, to recognize the genius beneath the mask of modesty. Let them remember how they laughed, how they ignored, how they assumed. Let them feel the sharpness of that realization, because now they understand, and now they realize why you played dumb. But it wasn't an act, it was a layer of protection, while you built something no one could touch. A layer that allowed you to work in peace, while they paraded their half-formed ideas as brilliance. You weren't hiding your light, you were charging it. You weren't suppressing your intelligence, you were shaping it into a weapon. And now, that weapon has been unleashed. But here's the truth they'll never say out loud. They needed you all along. You were the one who saw the gaps. You were the one who held the thread that kept things together. You were the one who knew how to fix what they kept breaking. But they were too proud to ask, too arrogant to see, too blind to admit that genius doesn't always come loud. Sometimes it comes cloaked in silence, in presence, in you. And now they're checkmated, not by force, not by fury, but by the slow, exact hand of someone who understood that time favors the patient. That silence is power when it holds intention. That being overlooked isn't a curse, it's a gift, because now they can't undo it. They can't take back the dismissals, the jokes, the condescension. They can't rewind the moment they laughed at your question or looked past your contribution. And that's the true beauty of it all. You didn't rise in spite of them. You rose without them. You didn't need their permission. You didn't wait for their green light. You became the road they now try to follow, and you don't even look back. Because your mission is not vengeance. It's not about proving every hater wrong. It's about proving the version of you that never gave up was right. The version of you that sat alone and said, one day they'll understand. The version that kept pushing even when the applause never came. The version that walked into every room, invisible, but knew one day they'll see. Well, they see now. Too late. Because now you've already become. You've already passed the point of needing them. You've turned rejection into resilience. You've turned isolation into innovation. You've turned doubt into destiny. And you wear it all, not as revenge, but as revelation. You were never lost. You were never behind. You were simply becoming the kind of unstoppable that silence required. And now they finally know. You never played dumb. You just played deep. And now that everything is in motion, now that your name is being spoken in rooms they never imagined you'd walk into, now that your work is being cited, your methods being studied, your results undeniable, the silence around them grows even louder. Because what can they say now? The ones who thought they had it all figured out are suddenly speechless in the face of someone they thought they already understood. They didn't just misjudge you, they miscalculated. And in the game of strategy, that's fatal. You were never the underdog. You were just quiet in the lab while they danced on the surface. They thought life was a sprint, but you knew. It's an engineered campaign of movement, stillness, and timing. They thought they could outpace you with noise. You let them try. You let them exhaust themselves chasing illusions while you built foundations from bedrock. And here's the poetic justice. You never once needed to shout, to flash, to scream for your place. You simply became so essential that ignoring you became impossible. Not because you demanded attention, but because you commanded respect through performance, through vision, through unshakable inner mastery. And when people saw the finished product, the polished steel of your mind, the calm thunder of your presence, they had to ask themselves, how long was this greatness hidden in plain sight? But you weren't hiding. You were preparing. There is a power in not being seen, in not being understood too early. There is strength in being underestimated, because it frees you to move without interference. It lets others expose their assumptions. It lets the world drop its guard. And while their eyes were looking elsewhere, you grew wings. Not all at once, but deliberately, quietly, day by day. So when your time came, you didn't have to announce it. You just took flight. And now you soar above the noise, above the doubts, above the boxes they tried to cram you into. You're not trying to fit anymore. You outgrew the frame. You're not looking to be included anymore, because you created your own realm. And in that space, where others see only what's trending, you see what's true. That's what makes you dangerous. Not just that you're brilliant, but that you know when to hold, when to wait, when to strike. This world wasn't ready for someone who didn't chase applause, someone who didn't flinch when ignored, someone who was willing to be doubted if it meant being free to build without compromise. But now, they have no choice but to accept the new truth. You are not who they thought you were. You are far, far more. And the beauty of it, you've already won. Not just the opportunity, the position, the respect. You've won the internal war, the one where you questioned your worth, the one where you almost broke from loneliness, the one where you doubted if the wait would be worth it. You beat that voice. You stood your ground. And now you walk forward, not looking for validation, but carrying proof. Living proof. Every step you take is built on the ashes of everything they thought would hold you down. You turn their doubt into fuel. You turn their silence into signal. You turn their absence into advantage. So let them realize now. Let them sit in that late revelation. Let them revisit the moments where they dismissed your presence, where they smirked when you asked the hard questions, where they mistook your stillness for surrender. Because now it's all turned. The same people who talked over you are quoting you. The same people who rushed ahead are trying to catch up. And the same people who thought they had it all now realize they were playing checkers on your chessboard. Checkmate. No celebration needed, no explanation offered, just the cold, undeniable truth. You became exactly what they never saw coming. So walk forward, chin high, eyes steady, mind sharp. Because from this moment on, you no longer owe the world your silence, but you own the power it gave you. And let this be the message to anyone else walking through the fire unseen. You don't need to prove your worth every time they doubt it. You don't need to fight for visibility in a world too distracted to see the real ones. Let them sleep on you. Let them underestimate. Let them laugh. Because when it's time, when you've sharpened your edge in silence, when you've prepared with full conviction, there will come a moment where all the lies they told about you dissolve, and only the truth remains, not in what you say, but in what you've become. And when that moment comes, remember, this isn't the revenge. This is the reveal. This is the moment when the world opens its eyes and sees that the genius behind the blank face was never gone. It was rising, quietly, completely, unstoppably. So now, say nothing. Just move. And let them watch. Because now, they realize why you played dumb. Too late. Checkmate. And maybe now they sit in rooms with your name echoing off the walls, wondering how they missed it. Maybe now they scroll back through the memories, the meetings, the messages, trying to find that one clue, that one moment they could have seen it. But they never will. Because the truth is, You didn't give them clues. You gave them chances, and they wasted them. That blank face, that was the storm shield. That was the veil behind which your brilliance was incubated, unbothered, untainted. It wasn't apathy. It was discipline. It wasn't confusion. It was strategy. You weren't spacing out. You were looking through the room and through time. While they were focused on appearances, you were focused on architecture. You were engineering a future so precise that even their absence would serve as bricks in your empire. You don't hold grudges. You hold receipts, not for vengeance, but for perspective. Because when the world circles back, when the ones who ignored you suddenly remember your name, you'll smile. Not out of arrogance, but out of clarity. Because you finally understand that being doubted is not a death sentence, it's a disguise. And some of the most dangerous minds were born in the soil of being underestimated. So let them keep whispering. Let them analyze. Let them fumble to rewrite the history where they played the role of supporter instead of skeptic. It's too late for them to edit the truth. It's already burned into reality. You were always the one. They just never had the eyes to see. And you? You didn't just survive the silence. You turned it into your kingdom. You made solitude your university. You made doubt your compass. You made every dismissive look, every overlooked idea, every quiet humiliation into fuel. And with it, you built not just a legacy, you built armor. The kind that shines without being polished. The kind that doesn't flinch when the past tries to return with compliments. Because you know now, the same mouths that ignored you when you had nothing will praise you now. Not because they changed, but because you did. But your journey was never about proving them wrong. It was about proving that your silence held substance, that you didn't need to be loud to be legendary. That being overlooked didn't mean being over, because some of the brightest stars are born in the parts of the sky where no one bothers to look. And now that you've stepped forward, not loud, not boastful, but unignorable, the world begins to shift, and they realize they weren't just blind to your presence, they were blind to your potential. And in a game where time is the true currency, they spent theirs laughing. You invested yours becoming, and now the return on that investment is shaking the ground beneath them. So walk tall, not because they see you now, but because you always saw yourself. Their realization doesn't validate your brilliance. It merely confirms their blindness. Their late applause doesn't empower your steps. It just adds background noise to the symphony you already started conducting in silence. And when they ask how you did it, don't explain. Because it was never about a single move, or a clever tactic, or one lucky break. It was about everything they didn't see. The hours no one counted. The nights you almost gave up. The days you smiled and nodded when your soul was screaming for recognition. The hundreds of small, painful, thankless acts of discipline. That's where the genius was forged. Not in their gaze, but in your grind. And now you're not just checkmating their perceptions. You're rewriting the game itself. The rules no longer apply to you because you transcended the game board. You don't move piece by piece anymore. You move entire paradigms. You don't step into rooms hoping to be chosen. Rooms are rebuilt around your presence. And in this moment, you no longer wonder if they'll see, because now, you know, they do. And it's too late. So breathe deep. Let the silence return. Let the realization echo in their minds long after you've left. Let the blank face be replaced by your unshakable focus. Let the genius they ignored now haunt every corner of the game they thought they controlled. Because the quiet ones, the ones they doubted, the ones they forgot, they're the ones who become the reason the room changes. You were the storm in disguise. You were the plan in plain sight. And now that you've moved, the entire board is yours.